I want you to listen to this short video of legal expert and professor of constitutional law in Israel, Moshe Cohen Eliah. This is again, legal expert, professor of legal stuff, who worked against the judicial reform in Israel before the war. Listen to what he says today. He has totally changed his understanding of the way that Israel works, and he is indicative of the wake-up process that many Israelis are going through today regarding our country. And this is a positive wake-up process. I talk to you all the time about it. It's not just in Israel, it's also happening in America. Listen.
שפעם אמרו שערוץ 14 זה קונספירציות על הדיפ סטייט. הנה, יש פסק דין מבית משפט עליון אמריקאי שבא לחסום את הדיפ סטייט, אוקיי? ביטל תפיסה שאמרה שהרשויות יכולות לעשות מה שהם רוצים, כי גם בארצות הברית הבינו ששם יש הרבה מאוד כוח. כל הווק השתלט על הדיפ סטייט. כל התפיסות של האקלים זה דרך הדיפ סטייט. והגיע הזמן שגם אצלנו נבין, זה אותן כוחות שנטולי לגיטימציה דמוקרטית, הם אלה שמנהלים.
רק בשביל הקוראים.
It's all coming out. It's wake-up time for the Jewish people. To understand how sick and immoral our justice system is, overpowering our publicly elected government and proving to more people how necessary and just justice reform is, listen to this latest news. Last week, the state prosecutor's office announced the opening of criminal proceedings against Israeli Minister of National Security, Ben Gvir, on suspicion of incitement against the residents of Gaza. Yes, you heard that right. Incitement against an enemy population that massacred and supported the massacre of innocent Israelis. Understand, our justice system for years has been part of the terror war against Israeli citizens on the side of our enemy. Complete victory over our enemies is impossible when we have a justice system that sides with our enemies and ties our hands in defeating them. Complete victory will only be achieved when these people from the justice system and the state prosecutor's office are removed from their jobs, with some even placed behind bars after they are given a true trial of justice for all the policies they forced upon the state and the army in the name of the law that directly led to the deaths of innocent Israelis. And this didn't start now. Tali Chatuel and her 4 daughters, Hashem Yikom Damam, were murdered in a terror attack in Gaza in May 2004, 20 years ago, by terrorists who were hiding behind a building near the road that the IDF wanted to destroy, yet the Supreme Court forbid the IDF from destroying. The deep state within the justice system is literally killing us and has been killing us for years. The anti-Jewish progressive values that are deeply embedded in the justice system are, yes, killing us. This war today is not just about overcoming our external enemies, but also exposing the dangerous anti-Jewish progressive deep state that runs Israel, overruling our elected officials and the policies we vote for in democratic elections. This is the wake-up process we are experiencing. The Jewish people in Israel are waking up. We are winning this war, and we will win it, overcoming our external enemies and our internal challenges, as I keep on telling you. Let me now share some more examples that is pushing forward this wake-up process. While the justice system has yet to put any terrorists from October 7th on trial, it has forced the state of Israel to release Hamas terrorists from October 7th from jail where they're being held until trial because their prison conditions are not good enough. And recently, they announced that they want to prosecute a reserve IDF soldier with the charge of murder for killing a Hamas terrorist on October 7th. This IDF soldier ran down south on his own, risked his life, saved Israeli lives from the onslaught of terrorists who came in massacring and raping, and the Israeli justice system wants to prosecute him and throw him into jail? This is not just insane, this is outright evil.
ביום שלישי לפני שבוע, מגיעים שוטרים, עם צו מעצר, וקורה כל מה שקורה. חשד ברצח מחבל נוח'בה. חשבתי שמסתלבטים עליי, בחיי. אני לא מאוכזב ממדינת ישראל, אני מאוכזב מהפרקליטות ומהמשטרה. חשוב לזכור שאנחנו ביחד כולם, אנחנו ננצח גם את הפרקליטות. באמת, שידעו כל החיילים והשוטרים שנלחמים בשטח, שידעו שיהיה להם גב מהעם, לחברי הכנסת, מבתי המשפט, שלא יפחדו מהפרקליטות. יש מחרב, זה הגיבור שלנו. אני רק רוצה להגיד לכולם שאין דבר כזה חייל רוצח. אין דבר כזה לוחם רוצח. יש לוחם שמחסל מחבל. חד משמעית. ואם הפרקליטות לא הבינה את זה, אז היא תבין את זה בדרך הקשה.
Israelis of all political stripes, right, left, center, are seeing the absolute insanity and injustice of this step and of the justice system. Why is the justice system doing this? Because it is helping the international justice system screw Israel and stop us from being able to defend ourselves. It is an evil, evil deep state at work using the unjust justice system to do its job. This is what the Jewish people in Israel and the Netanyahu governments all these years have been up against whenever they are voted in power. Like I said, it's wake-up time for the Jewish people in Israel. It's not Netanyahu who is corrupt, it's the justice system that is corrupt and unjust, running the country and overturning every government decision or government appointment that doesn't go according to their postmodern, anti-Jewish state agenda. But with each day they are exposing their evil more and more because they know the proud Jewish spirit of the people in Israel today are winning. They know it. They know they are losing, and that's why they're fighting so hard and exposing themselves. Instead of you being upset, focus on the fact that this evil, unjust, deep state is finally being exposed more and more. We are winning and we will win. Am Yisrael Chai, folks. Really, it's happening.
אני מסתכל פה על המסך, כתוב הצעת חוק גירוש משפחות מחבלים. אני מסתכל פה על החוק, ואין פה שום דבר שקשור לא לגירוש משפחות מחבלים, ואפילו לא לגירוש מחבלים. אפילו מחבל אחד לא יגורש כתוצאה מחבל, אני לא מדבר על משפחות. נכון. אפילו מחבל אחד. אם אנחנו מחוקקים את זה בדרך הזאת, ועוד מכניסים בית משפט לאירוע, זה רק לעשות וידוא הריגה. זה מה שאנחנו עושים. אנחנו עובדים על עצמנו, פעם אחר פעם אחר פעם, ויושבים פה כל האנשים האלו שמספרים לנו שהם דואגים לביטחון המדינה, והם בעיקר דואגים לעבוד עלינו. ואנחנו קונים את זה, והם משתפים פעולה, וכמו שאמר חנוך, הוא צודק, התפקיד שלנו לחוקק, אז מה אנחנו רוצים? אנחנו מחוקקים, והם לא מיישמים. התפקיד שלהם כנראה לא ליישם, כי זה מה שהם עושים. לא מסרו נתון אחד, לא מסרו מידע אחד, משקרים במצח נחושה, מספרים סיפורים, מעבירים סמכויות, שחררו 50 מחבלים בגלל צפיפות. רוצים לשחרר יותר בגלל צפיפות. אז אזרחות הם ישללו. על מי אנחנו עובדים? הם עושים את זה פעם אחר פעם אחר פעם, ואנחנו חוזרים לפה פעם אחר פעם אחר פעם, ויושבים אנשי השב"כ ומחייכים לנו ומסבירים לנו כמה הם שומרים עלינו, והם לא עושים את זה. כשהם משקרים לי פעם, ועוד פעם, ועוד פעם, ועוד פעם, ומצפצפים על הכנסת ועל הוועדה הזאת פעם, ועוד פעם, ועוד פעם, ולא מביאים נתונים פעם, ועוד פעם, ועוד פעם. הם שומרים כמו שהם מבינים. לפי שיקול הדעת שלהם, רק מה לעשות, אנחנו מדינה דמוקרטית, וצריך לשמור לפי שיקול הדעת שלנו. אבל הם טוענים שהם עושים את זה כדי להגן עלינו במשפט הבינלאומי. כנראה שטענת ההגנה של מדינת ישראל היא אי שפיות. אתה מבין שהם פותחים בחקירה על בן אדם שהרג מחבל ב7 לאוקטובר. פותחים על זה בחקירה. בוא נניח שהוא תפס אותו והוא היה כפות. אני לא יודע כלום על הנסיבות האלו. אז אני חושב שצריך להעמיד אותו לדין. אתה יודע מה? אני חושב שצריך להעמיד אותו לדין. למה הוא לא צלצל למשטרה? לא הייתה משטרה. למה הוא לא קרא לצבא? לא היה צבא. למה הוא לא קרא לשב"כ? לא היה שב"כ.
פרקליטות, מה?
על הפרקליטות, היה צריך לקרוא לפרקליט.
הם לחמו בכל הגזרות.
שישמור על מחבל הנוח'בה עד שמשהו יקרה. בזמן מלחמה, יש כוח לוחם, אתה הורג אותו, אתה מחסל אותו, זה מה שאתה צריך לעשות. מה, אתה תשאר לשמור עליו? לא יודע עד מתי? אתה צריך לעבור לחסל את המחבל הבא. עכשיו הם חוקרים על זה ומגישים כתב אישום על מישהו שהרג מחבל נוח'בה בזמן מלחמה. אז אתה רוצה שהם יעשו לך שלילת אזרחות? הטירוף הזה, טירוף המערכות שאחז את מערכת המשפט שלנו ואת מערכת האכיפה שלנו, שזה נראה להם הגיוני לשחרר מחבלים בגלל עומס בבתי הכלא. זה נראה להם עושה שכל. אנחנו נלחמים על זה שתעשו את העבודה שלכם ותשמרו על ביטחונם של אזרחי מדינת ישראל. כמו שאנחנו מבינים, לא כמו שאתם מבינים. כי אתם מבינים לשחרר את דוקטור מנגלה, כי צפוף לכם בכלא.
Now I want to share with you a post by my friend in the Israeli media, Elitist, who further pushes this message, and it actually was a direct plea to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Erez writes the following: Prime Minister Netanyahu, wake up. There are scorpions and snakes around you. We are experiencing a rebellion of the bureaucrats. The chief of staff of the IDF never prosecuted or dismissed the IDF reserve soldiers who publicly harmed the IDF by calling to refuse to serve in the IDF during the judicial reform protest, literally harming the security of the state of Israel, which many believe to have fueled the motivation of Hamas to attack on October 7th. Instead, the chief of staff allowed those IDF soldiers and officers to in the refusal movement to return to their senior positions in the army. The Ombudsman and the State Prosecutor's Office do not enforce the law on calls by protesters for murder and serious incitement against the Prime Minister. The justice system has had zero enforcement against the anti-government protesters, protests that they are doing in the middle of an existential war that the Jewish people in Israel, right, left, and center, are all united to fight and win. The protesters illegally block roads for hours. They break into the Prime Minister's compound, and countless of times they bully and threaten elected officials. Yet the justice system and the state prosecutor's office do nothing to enforce the law against the anti-government protesters. The heads of the security establishment, time after time, withhold information from the Prime Minister and the government and make operative decisions on their own, like they did on October 7th. They continuously withhold information from the government and ministers. The heads of the IDF and intelligence services withheld intelligence information hours before the attack on the morning of October 7th. The IDF chief of staff withheld information about a possible operation to release hostages that had been worked on for weeks. He never escalated it to the Prime Minister or the government. The IDF failed to follow basic security protocol to protect the fence barrier with Gaza on October 7th. Basic protocol. They announced a humanitarian pause in the Rafah area on their own without any directive from the government. It's like the IDF works on its own. They tried to establish an investigative cover-up committee of the security failures of the IDF on October 7th to be headed by a former IDF general and defense minister who totally supported all the failed security policies that led to the October 7th massacre tragedy. The IDF just released the Hamas terrorist who acted as director of the Shifa hospital in Gaza, which acted as a headquarters for Hamas, and where they brought in many of the Israeli captives. The Shifa hospital director was in on it. He's a Hamas member. They led a constant media campaign of leaks by senior IDF officers and bureaucratic officials against the government and against its leaders, including leaks from briefings in the White House while there is great tension with the Biden administration and the Netanyahu government. The judicial system is constantly tying the hands of the Netanyahu government and the politicians and stopping the IDF from being able to win this war. First, they come up with rules that prohibit our holy IDF soldiers from killing any terrorists in Gaza who are not official members of Hamas. We are talking about terrorists we know who took part in murdering, raping, and kidnapping Jews or holding them in their homes from October 7th. But if they're not official Hamas militants, then the justice system forbids our soldiers to shoot at them. This is insane. Then the justice system forced the prison services to release terrorists from jail due to difficulty of space and inadequate conditions, which I mentioned earlier. Then the Supreme Court is talking about whether the horrific Gaza terrorists have the right caloric menu to eat while they are in Israeli jails. And on top of all of that, the senior IDF and intelligence staff still are in their positions, even though they are totally to blame for the failure of protecting Israel and Israeli citizens on October 7th. They promoted fellow senior officers who have personal responsibility for the failure of October 7th. They've been promoted! From the point of view of the bureaucrats and the officials in the justice system, this is all a win-win. They both blame the government for whatever they want to blame it for, and they themselves in the justice system don't bear any responsibility for the consequences of their decisions and actions. They blame the government for all the consequences. And then Erez ends his plea to Prime Minister Netanyahu with this: you can't go on like this. And that, my friends, is how the deep state runs the country and stops the democratic will of the people when we elect Netanyahu and right-wing governments. Despite having voting time after time for right-wing conservative governments, they can never rule and make the decisions because the deep state stops them. Now, as I always say, instead of being depressed about this, be invigorated, because more and more people are waking up to this immoral and unjust reality. And a deep state can only succeed if they are deep. But once they are not deep anymore and they're exposed, they can't succeed as well. That is the good news. They only have power to run the country behind the scenes when they are behind the scenes. But once they lose the legitimacy of the public, waking up to the fact, to the damage that they are doing to the country and our lives, and literally stopping us from being able to defend ourselves and enforce our basic right to live, it is only a matter of time that the deep state, those in the justice system, and the bureaucrats will lose their legitimacy to have power over us. That is why this wake-up process is so important. It's frustrating, it's depressing, it's sad, but we're going to get out of this. Am Yisrael Chai, everyone. We're an eternal people. We will overcome our enemies and our internal challenges. Remember, we are an internal people. We're going to overcome our external challenges and our internal enemies. Stay with me for the analysis. Stay with me for the updates. Stay with me for behind the headlines. Stay with me for the inspiring truth of it all. If you're not yet a subscriber to my Pulse of Israel videos, go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And to support our videos and messages to be seen by more people, click on the donate button every once in a while on pulseofisrael.com. Shalom, everybody, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.